Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. Get ready. Get ready. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about this week.
Oh, yeah, we do.
The entertainment edition is going to be probably an extended one, to put it mildly.
It's loaded.
It is loaded with content, so if you want to talk movies, TV, comics, and more, we definitely are your stop for that. And after the show, Pat, where does everybody go to?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Swing on over there. Check out the social media links. That's where we like to keep the conversation going the most, adding a lot of followers each and every day, which we love seeing. Also, check out the TeePublic store link, which is the holiday season. No better time to go get some ODPH swag. Seriously, no better time. Also, the Patreon, which they have not one, but 2 episodes this week.
Ooh.
So one tier, $2 a month, and you can find out what everybody is talking about on the ODPH Society. I'm just saying, put it out there. It's so easy to do, so easy to sign up, and you get bonus content. Bam! On top of what we already do now. It's crazy, I know. Also, at the website, you can check out the blog section where we have reviews coming up all the time, and a loaded one for New Comic Book Day, too, this week. Just putting that out there. Also, the classified section, which has friends of the show, such as 3FN, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative. The list goes on and on. We're adding more and more each and every day. So that's the crazy thing, that we always have our staples that we plug at the beginning of the show, but there is a lot of other great people and organizations that we plug on there too. So definitely want to make sure you go through and swing that and check it out. And especially what's going on with 3FN Podcast too, doing big things right now. Also, the directory, Pat, how many priors are we on?
115,000.
Sounds about right to me. He is the statistician to the stars. I do not question him. Seriously, Pat says it. I just take it for what it is. Also, the music section where you can find out what is going on with Brian Wolf and the Howlas. A lot of good things going on with Brian right now.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the Robots and Tom Jola are playing a big show locally here in the 607. So if you got a chance to go, you can go see them live, which is going to be an amazing night, just putting it out there. On top of Second Suitor, Floodlands, the list goes on and on. Basically, if it's anything and everything, it is the ODPH. You can find it at odphpodcast.com. And always remember on social media to use the hashtag ODPH Pod. Kicking off this edition of the ODPH, we have to recap a movie that has generated some buzz.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily all positive, even though I've got feelings about it.
Okay.
But nevertheless, we have the latest entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the box office this week, and that is The Marvels. Directed by Nia DaCosta, starring Brie Larson as Carol Danvers, Tiana Paris as Monica Rambeau, and Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan, a.k.a. Miss Marvel, and the powers that are kind of leading into more and more than just a nuisance with what is going on to the bigger picture. So, Pat, I know you got some stats about this.
I do. So, going from the folks over at Box Office Mojo, obviously The Marvels was the #1 movie at the box office this past weekend, finishing with a gross domestically of $46,110,859, beating out the likes of Five Nights at Freddy's, which was #2, Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, which was in 3rd place, Priscilla, which was at #4, and then Killers of the Flower Moon, which was at #5. And then for overall numbers, currently as we record, domestically, the film is sitting at $48,483,234. Internationally, it has made $62,917,838 for a worldwide gross currently of $111,401,072. Now, if the domestic opening weekend does sound low, and I feel like we got to mention this because
we have to.
We'd be doing a disservice if we don't. That is incredibly low, all things considered. If again, for the folks over at Box Office Mojo, they do list the films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. and you can sort them by lifetime gross, max theaters, the opening numbers, and then open through and the release date and everything else. I've got them open here, and obviously the top of the list is Avengers Endgame, which had an opening weekend of $357,115,007. You go down to the middle of the pack where you've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is number 13 with $146,510,104. And then you jump down a little bit further. Captain America the Winter Soldier is 21 with $95,023,721 for opening weekend. And at the bottom of the list, although technically not the bottom, there's a couple more, but in terms of like the fresh releases, is the Marvels at 33rd. The only things below it are Spider-Man No Way Home, the re-release, Iron Man, the re-release in 2020, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Volume 1, the re-release in 2020, Black Panther 1, the re-release, and the thing that doesn't have any numbers and is at the bottom because it was only on premium video on demand was Black Widow.
So a lot to take into context here.
Yeah, a couple more numbers here for you. Over at the folks at Rotten Tomatoes, for the critics, it currently has, with 302 reviews, 62%. But then the audience score is sitting at 84%. And then over on Letterboxd.com, with 91,000 people having watched the movie, you've got an average score of 2.9 out of 5.
So all things considered, it's still the number one movie at the box office.
Yes.
Was anything going to take it if it wasn't going to be there?
No, because I think it was the only thing. I'll have to double check. I think it was the only thing to open this past weekend.
Right.
So unless there was which you see occasionally every now and then, something will go back. Something will drop out of first place, and but then a couple weeks later it'll jump back into first place. So I mean, we'll see. I don't think so. Let's see. So the only things that opened this past weekend was Journey to Bethlehem, which opened or came in at number 7 with just about $2.5 million. Tiger 3, which came in at number 8, with just under $2 million. And then It's a Wonderful Knife, whatever that is, which came in at number 14 with just under $600,000. So unless something would have happened with if there was a sudden research to want to see Five Nights at Freddy's, which there clearly wasn't, it was a 52.6% drop off from last week, according to Box Office Mojo. Listen, Swifties are a special group and they can do some crazy stuff, but the fever pitch is dropping off with that movie, especially since she's on her overseas tour now. That one dropped off 55%. So I don't think anything else would have beaten this.
Well, that's the whole thing to take away is for all the doom and gloom that has been hovering around this movie. It's really not as bad as people say.
It's not the greatest movie of all time.
No, but I'm saying for where there was a lot of social media nonsense, and I'm putting it mildly when I use that word nonsense, leading into this movie, and then some people celebrating its quote-unquote failure.
Yeah.
I think you have to look at the big picture here. No pun intended. It's still the number one movie at the box office. It still did a lot better on a lot of scorecards than many people had thought.
Yeah.
There is a certain contingent that unfortunately was trying to review bomb it.
Oh, yeah.
And they failed.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think what happened here is coming into this movie, we didn't know what to expect. The trailer had kind of misled a little bit, but we're also in a new phase with Marvel that we have to realize not everything is leading to Avengers. And a lot of these characters are now going to get those standout moments and kind of see where they go from here. Captain Marvel is going to be a focal point of whatever is going to be the phase of the MCU moving forward. So they decided to also showcase Miss Marvel, who's going to play a bigger role in the MCU, and we'll get into that as we do the movie breakdown. And also Monica Rambeau, who is also now slated for a very big role in what is moving forward.
Yeah.
So overall, where we're going with this is not everything is as bad as it sounds. It still made money. It's still got a lot of time left in the box office. Is it signing the end is near for the MCU? No, by all means. The MCU will be fine. So will everybody here, because we probably will get a third Captain Marvel movie in some capacity.
If not her own solo film, she'll show up and have a prominent role in one of the other movies.
Oh, absolutely.
That's coming out, in the next, however many years.
Yeah, so for all the negativity that was surrounding this leading into the weekend, and
Right.
like I said, the amount of nonsense, and I stress, I'm putting it mildly, I'm trying to really contain my anger.
No, I mean the anger is deservedly so, just because let's face it, we're not going to get too deep into it, but there is a certain contingent of fans, and I'll use Thor as an example, that see the various incarnations wield Mjolnir.
Yep.
Be it Beta Ray Bill, be it Cap, be it, anyone else who's ever, wielded Mjolnir, and they sit there and they go, oh my God, yeah! And then you get folks like the story with Jane Foster, and they go, you're trying to make this political. You're trying to do this. Boy, can you tell those folks haven't read the DC Marvel crossover they did?
Yeah.
Where Wonder Woman wielded Mjolnir? Pretty sure if they read that, their heads would explode. Listen, we're not sitting here saying it's the greatest film of all time. We're not sitting here saying, it's the greatest Marvel film of all time. It's enjoyable. It's a fun. How long is the movie? Like maybe like an hour and a half.
Yeah, give take.
Hour and
It's
a half
a short
to
movie. It's
hour and a half, hour 45. I'll have to look it up. But it's a fun movie. You sit there, you enjoy. There's not too much. If you haven't seen the Marvel movies in a while, you can kind of go into it cold, and you'll be fine. I know my fiance Liz Bailey went to see it, and we had a couple other people in our group who aren't exactly up to date on the Marvels movies. They went in and they enjoyed the hell out of it. I was looking up some movies in terms of how it'll do continuing. I think it'll still do well. This weekend though, it might take a little bit of a hit, just because I'm looking at on the release calendar on IMDb.com. It's got a little bit of competition this weekend from a variety of genres. So releasing this weekend, you've got Trolls Band Together from the folks over at whatever.
That's the one NSYNC is all about with.
That's the one. NSYNC's got
okay.
the song they got back together for. You've got Thanksgiving coming out this week.
Oh, the Eli Roth one?
Yep, with Patrick Dempsey in it. Okay. And also The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is coming out this weekend. So you've got the Hunger Games fans, myself included, who are planning on seeing that this weekend. So I think it'll still do well this weekend, but you're going to see a drop-off in the percentage or whatever for the box office last week to this week. And again, this will be another week of the MCU's dead, which has been interesting to read, especially from the trades. And it was either Hollywood Reporter or Variety basically saying, the MCU's dead and they need to reassess and reboot. And Forbes came out and was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
None of this is true. So unfortunately, I think for those of us who aren't doom and gloom and up in arms because they went political, we're going to be forced to deal with this another week, because you've got 3 stellar movies. Let's face it, I'm not a Trolls fan, but hey, if you're going to take your kids to see it, more power to you. I'm not a horror movie fan, but hey, if you're going to see Thanksgiving, you're excited to see it. Myself personally, I'm excited to see the Hunger Games movie, just because hey, it's another movie in that franchise, and I love that franchise. So it's going to drop from number 1. There's going to be a drop off in the percentage of what it made last week to this next week, and we're going to have to endure another week of, the MCU's dead. Look at how big the drop off was. Okay. Yes, there's going to be a drop off, but there's a reason for it.
Yeah, there's always a reason for it. But before we get into the deep dive of the review, this is something that just needs to get addressed, that all the negativity surrounding the lead-in for this didn't hurt per se, because it still made money.
Yeah.
It's still the number 1 movie at the box office. However you want to decipher it up, it's still a success. But it's not going to be Endgame. I mean, let's face it.
Nothing will.
We are in that transition era from Endgame, which was arguably the highest grossing movie of all time, or at least in comic form, there is no question about it. There's only going to be one movie ever made that will top that.
Right.
And that's Justice League Avengers. If they ever decided to do that, that would be the highest grossing comic book movie of all time. Nothing will touch that.
Yeah.
So anything else in this transition period, as long as it's not failing to hit number 1 at the box office when the box office is down, let's face it, it's a win.
Well, and let's face it, the box office in general this weekend, not just this weekend, but this year is down in general because according to Statista.com, did a quick Google search of the top 10 highest grossing movie weekends domestically this year. In order, they go Barbie, Super Mario Brothers movie, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, The Little Mermaid, Barbie again, and then Super Mario Brothers movie again, and then Oppenheimer. And those movie totals in that order are 162.02, 146.36, 120.66, 118.41, 106.11, 97 even, 95.58, 93.01, 92.35, and 82.46, which is Oppenheimer.
Yeah. So,
listen, Oppenheimer made $82 million its opening weekend, and it is still the best movie I've seen this year.
And here's the thing, too, before we get into the review. How many of those movies were out during the strike? And the strike just wrapped up.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a traditional promotion period for it.
Well,
so,
I mean, at least one of those you don't need a promotion tour
Right.
for Taylor Swift.
Well, that's the whole thing.
She's a promotion tour unto herself.
Exactly. Taylor's an anomaly here. So it's like, so you can take her out of the equation.
Yeah.
But as far as box office business goes, stat quo,
Yeah.
the Marvels didn't have that, but it still made money. So guess what? The House of Mouse is fine. And so will the MCU moving forward. And if they decide to make any changes, we'll cross that when we get to it. But in the meantime, we have a very enjoyable film that Pat and I want to talk about in spoilers. So if you're new to the show, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. Drop us a review on your favorite podcatcher. It does help the algorithm of the show. What we like to do is give a spoiler-free statement, which we just gave, that we don't ruin anything for you, but we kind of give you the rough shot idea of what we thought of the movie. However, we are going to give you a countdown. And after said countdown, we deep dive into spoiler talk. We don't hold anything back. We keep it very open and on the table. So if you don't want to have anything ruined about the Marvels, Pat puts the liner notes stamp in the show. So thus you know when you read the liner notes when to duck out and when to come back in, because that's what Pat does for you to make sure we don't ruin anything for you. But that all said, let us talk some Marvels in depth, Pat. So in 3, 2, 1. Talk to me.
Like I said, this movie was good. You know, I'm not saying it's awesome. I'm not saying it's the best, and I'm not saying it's great. It was good. You know, I enjoyed it. I came out of it having a good time, and obviously that bonus scene I said to you was the greatest bonus scene in quite some time. A lot of implications with that one. You know, I can see why some folks wouldn't like certain parts of it, and we'll get into that. But for me, you know, those moments were a nice break and kind of the action and what was going on, and it was a little bit of a moment for us, the viewer, to breathe and go, okay, let's take 5 minutes here, collect ourselves, you know, get back together, and then we can keep going. You know, but overall it was fun. I thought everybody did good. I thought, you know, obviously Brie Larson, Teyonah Parris, Iman Vellani was awesome. Iman, what was it? Her family in the movie was just top notch in this movie. They were obviously phenomenal in the TV show, but they were even more so in this show. Even Sam Jackson, Nick Fury was his usual awesome self. He was great in this movie. You know, I thought it was good. You know, the action sequences were pretty good.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and like I said, overall it was fun. I enjoyed it.
The thing about this movie is if you're a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, this almost was mirroring a lot of the same themes.
It was almost like a little bit of fan fiction.
A little bit, but you know what? Like I say, Nia DaCosta really came in, set a high energy tone. It was fun. It was exciting. And it's not the greatest movie I've ever seen, but I was entertained. And I was honestly more impressed about this movie than I thought I was going to be. Because honestly, I didn't know what to suspect until we got here. Because the only thing we've seen in the trailers is powers are failing for everybody. There's a lot of teleporting.
Right.
We go from here.
Right. And I wasn't sure what to expect with this just because I looked up the director on IMDb and going into this going, all right, I've never heard the name, what she worked on, so maybe I have an idea. You know, she's best known for being the writer on the 2021 adaptation of Candyman, a writer on the 2018 film Little Woods, and then was obviously a writer for this one. And then in terms of directing, she directed this one. She also directed the 2021 Candyman movie. She did a short in 2020, also titled Candyman, was a director on a TV series for 2 episodes called Top Boy, was a director for a movie in 2018 called Little Woods, and then directed a short in 2013 called Night and Day. So I looked at this going, all right, I really haven't seen that much, so I'm going in kind of blind.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? Very impressed with what we saw.
Yeah.
It definitely had a lot of great moments of action, especially how everybody works together, because we haven't seen a lot of that in the MCU or even comics lately.
Yeah.
The whole shared powers idea. So it was kind of a cool concept to do. And then where we go with the bonus scene, that's going to be a whole different ball of wax
Holy shit.
when we get there. Because the only thing is, like, where this movie starts off with, you have kind of a little flashback of what Carol Danvers has been up to. Because obviously with the events of her first movie.
Taking place in the 90s.
Yep. Destroying the supreme intelligence of the Kree nation that has now caused a lot of bad things to happen on their homeworld of Hala.
Yeah, I mean, basically we had to fill in quickly, 30 years worth of what had happened, because, her last movie took place in the 90s. She disappeared, she left Earth, disappeared for, 20, 30 years, whatever it is, and then came back to Earth. And it's like, okay, well, we know you went to take care of some business once you left Earth. What happened there? And like you said, she went and destroyed the Supreme Intelligence, as she said she would, and then it basically killed the planet, the Kree homeworld of Hala, where basically it lost the atmosphere. So basically there was no air for them to breathe. They had to wear, these modified science fiction breath masks. There was no water, and it was dark all the time because their sun had stopped spinning.
Yeah. It's an interesting setup to go here so you could understand why Dar-Ben was as fired up about taking out Captain Marvel, who was called the Annihilator, so much. And Zawe Ashton, I will say this. It's nothing against the actress. I just thought she was not well written.
She did everything she could with this role. Honestly, the character is very forgettable. Just because, I'll be honest, up until you read the name, I couldn't tell you what the fuck the character's name was.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever say it, and if they do, it's maybe once.
It's quick.
And it's a forgettable moment, but they don't really... There's not a lot of depth to the villain, and sometimes that's needed, sometimes that's not. In this instance, I don't think you needed a lot of depth. It would have helped, but it wasn't, for the story they were telling, it wasn't necessarily needed. I mean, the story is she's on the planet, she's from Hala, Carol shows up, or returns, I guess you could say, destroys the Supreme Intelligence, and basically signs the death warrant of her people. I understand the frustration. I understand where she's coming from. You don't need to give me this long, entrenching, backstory, sob story of, my parents were murdered when I was growing up and I elected to never let that happen again, and yada, yada, yada. Like, okay, no, Carol showed up, destroyed, you basically signed a death warrant for your planet, and now you want revenge. I get it. Felt like they could have done a little bit more to flesh out the character and do some stuff, but they chose not to, which is fine.
Well, like I said, this was very reminiscent to Guardians 1.
Yeah.
That I thought with Ronan the Accuser,
Yeah.
they could have done a lot more. They didn't, in my opinion. And,
Yeah.
and ironic that Dar-Ben gets Ronan's hammer,
Yeah.
which was never really touched upon.
No, she just has it. Why?
Reasons. But the only time it's ever really used is to go get the other quantum band,
Yeah.
which she tracks down, albeit though she's looking for the pair. And when she activates it, well, it causes like this time displacement that is now affecting all of the powered superheroines that we're going to be talking about, which is kind of an interesting point because they all wind up coming into the space that is caused by Dar-Ben.
Well, I think what happens is Carol's investigating this. Because and while they're doing this, a hole has opened because we find out that Sword and presumably just Sword have harvested and used the same technology we saw the Guardians of the Galaxy use to travel through space. It's the same setup. So, but there's an opening in one of these, whatever it's called, the portals, I'll just say.
Yeah, the anomalies.
The portals, they open up to travel from point to point in space. And so there's a crew working on some stuff. Teyonah Parris, Monica Rambeau, goes to investigate it. And I think it's almost at the exact same point she goes to touch that that Carol goes to touch the one on the planet she's on in some other part of the universe. Fury's center there. She's off to investigate it. They touch these at almost the exact same point. All the meanwhile, the band goes off at the same time, and I think that's where the knot gets formed with all of the powers.
Right, because that's the moment we see in Ms. Marvel where Kamala Khan goes through the closet door, and then in comes Brie Larson.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it does make sense because obviously everybody's tied together with their powers.
Right.
Because of this anomaly that has been created from,
three sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it's a crazy setup how they do it, but it works though. It's nothing that really takes out.
Yeah.
So from that point on, we do get some hijinks, if you will.
Yeah.
Of just everybody getting displaced because you have Monica Rambeau who's out in space. She's trying to fix the Saber station.
Mm-hmm.
Gets kind of pulled away after she touches the anomaly, and when she comes back, she's Kamala Khan in the spacesuit.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you have Monica Rambeau go to the planet that Carol Danvers was on, and she now gets caught up in the whole Kree search party for the quantum bands. So that turns into a whole fiasco.
Yep.
Then Carol Danvers comes to Earth and meets Kamala's family, which is great. And
they're confused as all hell because here's this random person in their house, and they didn't see her come in.
Right. So there's a lot of this back and forth, which I didn't mind. It sets up what's going on.
Yeah.
So like I say, you have an idea that everything is coming together, which ultimately leads to a moment where Kamala comes back to Earth with the one and only Goose, who tips off a little bit something that we see later in the film because we see on the Kree spaceship, Kamala is about ready to be getting attacked because there's a fight been going on. Like I said, there's a lot of moving parts here, but just to hit to the main points, Kamala shows up where Goose is because Goose is now traveling with Carol Danvers.
He's her partner. He's her Robin.
Yep. And while she's getting attacked, he winds up eating the two Kree soldiers, or so we think.
Yeah.
They wind up getting transported to Earth,
Yep.
and when they get there, Goose spits them out.
Yep.
So, thus causing a fight on Earth where you're seeing a lot of back and forth with everybody involved. Because at this point, Monica Rambeau has now come down from space to Earth.
Well, she's on the space elevator with Fury.
Yes. So they wind up coming down and going right to the front door and tracking down Kamala Khan and trying to make some sense of everything.
Yep.
So you are seeing a lot of back and forth until ultimately it turns into Carol Danvers confronting Monica Rambeau, which has not been done since the end of the movie of Captain Marvel.
Right, because Carol left at the end of Captain Marvel 1 and told Monica, I'll be right back, while flash forward to this point in time. Even with Carol making a return back to the scene and being back in the solar system, she has still not spoken to Monica. The other thing, too, is Ms. Marvel's family ends up having to go with her because in the middle of this fight, their house gets destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
Top to bottom. So the family is now put in the line of danger with everything going on because they have to go with Fury up to space into the Sword Station.
Yeah, so this does make a lot of sense, and now the three are together and trying to figure out what's going on, and they do come to the conclusion that they're all entangled because of what Dar-Ben's been up to, because now creating this anomaly, which they've all come into contact with, this is causing their powers to short out a little bit. It's causing a lot of chaos. They have to go confront the main source. However, during this, where Dar-Ben is trying to establish herself as the new ruler of the Kree and her trying to justify her cause, they touch upon a theme that we did allude to last week, and that is the rivalry between the Krees and the Skrulls.
Yep.
And more or less, you do see that Dar-Ben is on the planet of Tarnax, and they've more or less said, well, we were going to give you your own home planet, but we now need it for the Kree, the atmosphere for the Kree.
They've pulled the Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back. They altered the deal. Pray they don't alter it anymore.
So at this situation, it now causes a lot of calamity, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that the three Marvels have to go into action, even though Carol is telling Kamala, stay here with everybody, get on the ship, because if you short me out for my powers, everything is going to go completely chaotic.
Which, I mean, is great in thought, but then again, you're dealing with an entire planet getting ripped up.
So while this is happening, they try saving everybody they can. It does not work out. And this is a point to where I thought Kamala Khan really got an eye-opening vision of the world.
This is a growing up point for her. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Because she is trying to save everybody humanly possible.
Because that's how it's worked in her stories.
Mm-hmm. Oh, always her fan fiction that she's written. And Carol Danvers has to give her a very cold reality that in this line of work, you can't save everybody.
Mm-hmm. It works great, and it sounds great when you're putting pen to paper or typing away at your keyboard and writing your own little fan fiction stories. It's not how it always works.
No. So you do have some great acting going on with Iman Vellani confronting Brie Larson. Like I said, they're back and forth about this, and just how Carol Danvers doesn't want a team around her.
Right. And it's also rough on Ms. Marvel because, let's face it, it's rough on Kamala because she idolizes Carol.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen her bedroom. Carol saw her bedroom.
Yeah.
That there's posters and pictures and drawings and everywhere else. And she's the golden statue in her life, that is, the one she follows, the one she aspires to be. And then here's her hero, here's her role model, and it's not what she expected.
No, it's always a statement, never meet your idols.
Yeah.
Because in this situation, it's a cold truth because Kamala is such a positive hero and wants to see the good in everybody.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen this way.
Well, and she's still a kid. I mean, she's still in high school. She still sees superheroing as the stuff you hear about on television or read online. It's never the stuff behind the scenes of like, yeah, sure, the Avengers did end up stopping what happened, the worst of happening in Sokovia. But look at what happened behind the headlines.
Yeah.
And everything. Yeah, sure the Avengers saved New York, but how much damage did they do? A couple $1 billion worth of damage? Like, sure, it's sexy and they saved the day, but there's more to it.
The whole story of Baron Zemo plays right into that cold truth.
Yep.
Which is an interesting take, I will say that, but it works.
Yeah, no, it does.
And in this situation, too, this is like one of the stronger moments for Kamala, which I think leads into something later, too. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Because now they start piecing together what is going on, and that is Darben is trying to save Hala by destroying some worlds along the way.
Trying to save it one piece at a time.
But she's also made this a personal attack on Carol Danvers and to people that she's been in contact with.
Yeah.
So the next one on the hit list, which is deciphered, is you have air, now you need water. And Carol Danvers immediately thinks of the planet Aldana, I'm sorry. So they go to Aldana, and we find out that Carol is not exactly flying under the radar, so to speak.
Well, and we find out she knows a striking bit of information about this place because they use this Kree technology to figure out where she's going because one of them saw a star chart or a star map of where they're going, and they use the technology to do it, to see it, which then, while they're using it, opens up a can of worms between Monica and Carol because some past memories from them, and specifically what Carol, we find out Carol got to meet Monica's mother one last time before she passed. So that, which Monica did not know about, so that's a whole can of worms. But so they see the star chart and they're like, oh yeah, do you know where that is? And she just rattles off the planet name, where it is, what system it's in, and like I forget what it is, but like the percentage of water that is on the planet. And they both look at her and go, that is a shocking bit of information off the top of your head. How do you know that? And she's like, well, I've kind of been there before.
So as we find out, she is married as a business arrangement.
Air quotes married.
Yep. To Prince Yan, who's played by Park Shin-ju. And this is an interesting point in the movie because I've heard a lot of feedback online of fans that did not like this scene.
Sure.
And the only thing I will strike this back to is this is nothing really new. This is an alien race.
Yeah.
This is how they communicate because what they do is they communicate through song.
And dance.
So when they're doing it via music, it makes sense because it's cosmic.
Yeah.
This is, meant to be a fun break in the drama that's going on. I had zero issue with this.
So the movie's about 100. The movie's 105 minutes. This is what I would say probably about the halfway point of the movie, or close to the halfway point of the movie. So at this point, it's been outside of whatever, like not even a ton of interaction between Kamala and her parents. It's been just action-packed, story-driven, whatever else, like all just like forward action, go, 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 with not a real break in let's stop and breathe and let things play out. So to me, is it the best scene? No. Did I enjoy it? On a certain level, yeah. It was fun. It was something different. We've never seen, the MCU do a whole song and dance number. We've seen them play music and they've danced around with like Guardians of the Galaxy, but like a full-blown Broadway production style thing. Now, obviously the Hawkeye or the Hawkeye thing, but that was
the Rogers the musical.
That was like a Broadway play, but like to see something like out of a musical movie like Grease or Sound of Music or what have you, break out into song spontaneously. We never saw that, so I'm like, oh, this is something different. I'm okay with this.
Oh yeah, I had zero issue with this. Especially this does tie back to Captain Marvel in the comics.
This was also hysterical because they show up and at first Monica and Kamala are like, what the fuck is going on? But by the end of this big song and dance, they're both dancing and having a good time.
Yeah. So it's a fun moment in the movie. And like I say, if you read the comics, you had an idea about this anyway.
Right.
So proving once again, read comics before you go to the movies. Just putting it out there. But it is a fun moment to kind of break up the tension which is coming because unfortunately, Dar-Benn is on the way to Eldon. And when she gets there, we have another crazy fight that goes down.
Yep.
But the Marvels are holding their own.
They did some training on the way to the planet.
And I will say, this is one thing I liked. You saw between the three main characters, everybody's using their powers together.
Yep.
And you're seeing the growth of just how they're acting as a team. And I love this aspect of it.
The double Dutch bit was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Well, it's just building that team camaraderie, and especially how it plays out, because I know Kamala Khan has definitely excelled in her fighting throughout this entire film, which, I mean, this has just been training, but if you're learning under Carol Danvers, who knows what she's doing, and Monica Rambeau, too, you're going to have that growth. So, like I said, I didn't have any real issue with this. But it was an interesting play, though, because we do know after Dar-Benn is dealing with Aldana, everything shifts to Earth.
Well, she figures out, it's at this point, Carol figures out she's going after people she knows. Because the one on, Tarnax, she was trying to help those folks out. And then obviously Aldana, she's quote unquote, air quotes, married to the guy. And that's when she figures out, oh my God, she's going after people I know and people close to me. And the only thing left is Earth.
Yeah. Because now Dar-Benn has taken some water from the planet. Like, doesn't completely destroy it a la Galactus.
Right.
But it has enough that Hala is now getting repaired. And obviously, taking the sun from Earth would kill Earth.
And in between Tarnax and Aldana, Dar-Benn did return to Hala and basically gave this rousing speech of like, yo, and I'm paraphrasing, but she's like, hey, we don't like Captain Marvel. She's the Annihilator. Look at what she did. I'm trying to help the planet. I'm trying to save us. Because when she returns, the air's has been put back. So she like tells everybody, oh no, she shows like, oh no, take your mask off. It's perfectly fine. And they're like, oh my gosh, you brought the atmosphere back. And she has this rousing speech of like, hey, you hate Captain Marvel. I hate Captain Marvel. She didn't do anything to help us. I'm helping the planet. I'm trying to save you all. You should all follow me and get behind me. And everyone goes, yeah.
Yeah. It's not exactly Independence Day speech, but it's close.
Yeah.
It's close. Like I say, I understand where they're going with it. I just thought the writing didn't click here for the character. But
it was essentially Captain Marvel bad.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Follow me.
Yeah. So like I say, there could have been more depth and substance added to there.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of my biggest drawbacks of the film.
Yeah.
But as we know, after dealing with Aldana, the plan is to come to Earth. The Marvels have to evacuate Saber, the space station.
Right.
In arguably one of the most hilarious yet creative ways possible.
Good Lord.
Because on the ship, we have more Flurkins.
Well, so it's kind of like this ongoing mystery for a little part of the movie. Because I think it's when the Kamala's family first shows up on the space station, and they're walking through because Goose is still at the plane. Goose doesn't go with them. Doesn't go with the Marvels. Goose is on the space station. So when the family shows up, at that point they discover, some of the folks working on Sword discover this egg looking thing that's in the workings of part of the space station. And they're like, what the heck is this thing? And even Fury doesn't know what it is. Nobody on the station knows what it is. And they're like analyzing the thing. And they're like, we got to figure out what this is because this could be potentially catastrophic. And then come to find out. And here I am thinking, like, are we about to have like an Aliens type moment here?
I legit thought we were going to have the Brood.
Ooh.
I legit thought we were having the Brood, which I would have marked out
Okay.
insanely in the theater for.
So I'm like, are we about to have a face hugger alien type moment here? Are we about to get real crazy with this? But then no, it's not. Well, it's kind of a face hugger. We find out that Flurkins reproduce asexually.
Yep.
Because Goose laid eggs. A lot of them.
A lot
of them. A couple hundred.
So the creative way they evacuate Saber before Darben gets there.
Because something, I forget what it is, something happens to the station where only a certain, and it's a small number of the escape pods can launch. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's like a couple hundred people still left on the station. There's only X number of pods, and you can only put 5 people in each pod. So the math ain't working.
Right. They come up with the conclusion before Darben's forces take it over, is they evacuate the spaceship by having the Flurkins eat everybody to transport them to Earth.
So evacuation via Flurkin.
Yep, to the sounds of Cats, the musical.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious.
I was dying.
I mean, but it was a fun moment, and that's where I say, if you're a fan of the stuff they did in Guardians, you will like this movie.
Yeah.
And if you say you didn't like this, then you didn't like Guardians.
Yeah.
Case in point.
Yeah.
So we do see everybody finally get evacuated from the space station, and we get to the final battle here, which is the Marvels. They're now confronting Darben with the wristbands that Darben has taken, because remember, she stole Kamala's.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's that hole in space that they have now literally tore into the multiverse.
She's ripped open a hole in space and time.
Yeah, which I will say, the final battle here I thought was kind of a letdown.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I hate saying this about Marvel, but this is kind of a drawback always when they
like to kill off their villains.
They like to kill off their villains, but they also, like, for the amount of time you want to get invested in one, they always kind of just fumble the ending.
I see. I agree with you. Probably like 85-90% of the time, there are certain villains like, why'd you kill that one off? This one, though, I'm okay with.
I'm okay with this one.
I'm okay with. I mean, the final battle was simple. There was nothing really earth shattering to it. You know, I will say they did a great job at masking what was really going on, because up to that point we see the tear, and they say, they tore a hole in space and time. The only other time we saw this, they started bouncing locations between the 3 Marvels. So I'm like, it's probably just another part of the universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. The final battle was simple. There was nothing really to it. But then again, this had been the stat MO to this point for the writing of this villain.
Yeah, no, completely.
Nothing super serious.
Right. We didn't need to see her come back. I was just disappointed that for the amount of hype that you made this character into, it just fell flat. Like, this was a Darth Maul moment.
I mean, the easiest thing I'm thinking of in terms of this villain and just like how little lackluster is was Mickey Rourke in Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
And Whiplash. Yeah. Like, not a whole lot to him. Not a whole lot going. Just kind of like, you're pissed off at the main guy because reasons. Mm-hmm. You know, and you're going to try and do something to it. That's kind of the vibe I got off.
Yeah, because Darben ultimately gets all the quantum bands.
Yep.
And tries using them and just can't handle the power because she doesn't have the power in her.
Which was warned to her in like the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Uh-huh.
Because when they first find the first band in like the start of the movie, whoever her like lieutenant is, or that's whatever, her sidekick.
We'll just say sidekick.
Sidekick tells her like, hey, like it's at some point along the movie, he goes, hey, like it's great you want these 2 things, but like there are other ways to do it. If you use both of these at the same time, it will kill you.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Are you?
Yeah, like I say, she's so committed to her means, but it never connects with the audience.
No.
Like, it's just a weird thing with
no.
And like I say, I think it's how the writing was done for that character. But like I say, when they get into that battle, she tries tearing through another way to steal the sun from Earth, and winds up tearing into the multiverse. So at this stage, you have to have a combined attack from all the Marvels to shut it down.
Yep.
So Kamala has to get the bands back.
Yep.
You have to have Carol Danvers powering Monica Rambeau to seal it shut.
Kamala does the same as well. It basically Monica figures out if they both, because they figure, oh, my powers will redirect it. If you both fire your powers into mine, I can then close the rift.
Mm-hmm. But the only downside, which comes to be, is they can't close it from inside. They have to close it from the outside of the
other side.
Yep. And this was a great scene between Paris and Larson. They really mended the wounds that had been building. They were so estranged, and you did find out through this entire time that, when Brie Larson's character was off planet, the blip happened, and what happened when Monica Rambeau came back from the blip. And it's a very powerful scene to understand, like, the mind frame of what was going on with Monica Rambeau.
And Carol just felt she couldn't live up to, what was being asked of her. And being Captain Marvel and everything, and Monica goes, listen, I didn't need Captain Marvel. I needed Auntie Carol.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic scene. Like I say, it really drives the connection home. It adds a lot to the characters because they had been rivaling for so long that you finally get that moment before it all kind of falls apart because Monica makes that sacrifice to shut down the portal. And Carol Danvers can't save her in time. Like, she's trying to get out, but
she goes as fast as she can.
Right, but she can't go fast enough to save her. So she does lose her in the portal.
Yep.
And then has to kind of sit there and figure out what happens. But all the while, she doesn't take this loss and really kind of let it process at this moment.
Right.
Because she immediately flies into Hala's son.
So she goes, well, because Kamala goes back to Earth, or back to she's back on Earth. Family sees her, oh my God, you're so happy. And Fury sees her, goes, what happened? And because her family sees she's been crying. And Kamala looks at Fury, and she just says, all she can say, we lost Monica. And he's brokenhearted, and then he goes, well, where's Carol? And she goes, she's fulfilling a promise.
Yep.
Which was a promise she made to Dar-Benn, because Monica comes up with, because she's the scientist of the group, Monica comes up with, hey, your star's not dead. It's just spinning too slowly to produce any power. Carol can go up there and supply it with some power and get it basically jump-starting the battery again. And Carol goes, oh, I don't know if I can do that. She's like, listen, I've seen you and I both do a lot of things we didn't think we could do on this trip. You can do this. So the end battle results, and Carol goes to fulfill the promise, because they promised to Dar-Benn, hey, give us the bands. We'll go to your star system and we'll restart the planet, but then the double cross happens. So to fulfill the promise she made to everyone there, she goes back to Hala's system and goes to restart the planet, the sun.
Yeah, which she winds up pulling off.
Yeah.
So Hala is now up and running.
Yeah. Which is a scary thought.
It's a scary thought for what's going to happen down the road, but in the meantime...
Because let's not forget, as was said in the movie, at one point, the Creed conquered 25% of the universe.
Yep. So now...
We're not talking galaxy, we're talking universe.
So now we have a bigger problem to face down the road.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Whenever we decide to get there. But as the movie wraps up...
Hey, Silver Surfer, what you doing? We need you.
Well, I'm just waiting for Galactus to show up there. You imagine that? This whole movie would be all for nothing. If Galactus just comes through and eats that and just keeps rolling.
Yeah.
But it winds up heading back to Earth. And we do see that Kamala's family is now relocated to Monica Rambeau's house in Louisiana, where she grew up with her mother. And you see a plane is sitting on the outside.
Yep.
And you have this very cool moment between Carol and Kamala. And just basically kind of saying, like, I want to go for a flight. And she's like, we'll do it when Monica gets back. Because they're still going to find a way to go rescue her wherever she's at. And that's how it kind of ends for now.
Well, there is one last scene before the end of the end credits.
Yeah, which really is something that
about damn time
we've talked about for length now.
If you haven't been paying attention, you should be now.
Yeah, this was not that big of a shock, albeit though it was shocking to see who was putting this together.
Yeah,
because where we go to wrap things up is we head to New York City, and we see one Kate Bishop return, Haley Steinfeld playing the character, and returning from being out on assignment or crime fighting. And she walks into her apartment and sees that somebody is sitting there Much like Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury.
Yep.
But this time it's not him.
No.
Who is it, Pat?
Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
And she basically verbatim repeats what Nick Fury said to Tony Stark in Iron Man 1.
Yeah. So she is trying to put a team together, albeit, though, in her own way.
Uh-huh.
And we already had Cassie Lang get mentioned, too.
Yep.
Ant-Man's daughter.
Yep.
So it sounds like
Young Avengers.
we're finally getting Young Avengers with Kamala Khan leading the group. How you feeling about that?
About damn time. The pieces have been there for long enough. It's just a matter of they had to put them all together. I'm excited for it, though.
I'm very excited for this team. I'm curious to how they're going to do it, though.
Sure.
Because are we going to do movie or are we doing Disney Plus?
I figure probably Disney Plus.
I would imagine so, but it depends on how big they make the group. I'm hoping Hulkling and Wiccan show up very, very quickly along with Patriot. But I don't know how this lineup is going to do because you do have America Chavez is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on how big they want to make this team. But,
right.
And obviously, if you follow the original run of the comics, it would make sense to the current storyline, but I don't necessarily know if they're going to do that storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to wait and see. But the first 3 members officially announced. I'm excited to see where we go from here. But like we said, about damn time.
Yeah.
They've been
they've been teasing this for long enough.
They've been teasing this team for a while now. And like I say, there's just only a couple other members that we're waiting to see. So we're going to have to wait to see how the other films play out.
Yeah.
But not to be outdone,
boy howdy,
we get to the bonus scene.
Uh-huh.
And this is where we find Monica Rambeau. She is now in what looks like a hospital room.
Mm-hmm. Medical facility of some sort.
Medical facility. And she wakes up and she sees who, Pat?
What she thinks is her mother.
Yes.
And starts freaking the hell out. Understandably so. She left. She got blipped from Earth. Came back. Mother was dead. So, and somebody who looks like your mother's in front of you, you get a little emotional.
Yeah, this was a wild scene to play out.
Mm-hmm.
But we do see Lashana Lynch reprising her role as Maria Rambeau.
Or what we think is Maria Rambeau.
Or but what we think is. But we quickly find out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not who you think I am.
Yeah.
And she's like, wait, what? What?
She stands up. She's in the costume of Binary.
Uh-huh.
Which was an alias of Captain Marvel in the 70s, which is a whole different variant, if you will.
Yep.
And just before we can come to terms with what we're seeing,
somebody walks by.
And you hear such a familiar voice. I will not lie. I jumped out of my damn chair.
I did too.
I think a lot of people did at the theater.
I yelled out, oh, holy shit.
Yeah. Pat, who was that?
Kelsey Grammer as Hank McCoy.
Yep.
A.K.A. Beast.
The real Beast.
Uh-huh.
The blue fur, everything.
She's in the Fox universe, and she's in Xavier's mansion.
Yep.
Where she is in time with the Fox universe, that's a whole other ball of wax.
Exactly.
We'll figure that out later. But for now, Monica is in the Fox universe with the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Because he makes mention of Professor Xavier.
Yep. Oh, it's blatant.
So a version of Professor X is alive, whether it's the one from the original trilogy or it's the one from the First Class trilogy. We'll find out.
Yeah, we don't know.
Whether it's somebody entirely new, we'll find out.
That's the whole thing, that the ball game is now wide open. Except, I guess it's safe to say Kelsey Grammer is reprising his role as Hank McCoy.
Deservedly so.
Oh, absolutely.
He was phenomenal as Beast, and for only one goddamn movie.
Give me Dark Beast, though.
Yo,
I'm on my.
Let's set the X-Men up first before we go there.
No, just start it off. Just make them all the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants to start with, because I just want him to go complete Sideshow Bob monologue. Just because his voice is just amazing, so I just want to see that. But that's how we wrap things up. So, this movie was fun.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest takeaway we can go with this. But Pat, I mean, final thoughts and a grade on this film?
I would give it 4 out of 5 stars is what I gave it on Letterboxd. It's fun. It's not the best movie of all time. There are certainly some negatives to it, just how shallow the villain was in this. Like I said, up until we read the name, I couldn't fucking tell you who the name of the villain was because I don't remember them saying it in the movie. And just her motivation, while I understand it, was incredibly, narrow-sighted. In terms of there wasn't a broad scope to it. It's just kind of yeah, she's pissed off at what Captain Marvel did. Okay. But in terms of the story was good. I dug, the interactions between everybody else. It was cool to see Monica finally get to flex her powers. It was fun to get the WandaVision mention. They didn't say it by name, but she mentioned how she got her powers because of a witch casting a spell over a town in Pennsylvania. So it was fun to get the mention of WandaVision, but overall the movie was good. I enjoyed it.
Movie was very, very fun. And like I said, if you like Guardians 1, you have to like this movie. You can't say otherwise. And if you're going in with some other kind of preconceived notion, stop. If this movie isn't for you, that's fine.
Yeah.
But this movie is fun. And that's where they were going with it. You had such strong performances by Paris and Larson and Aman Vellani. Everybody really brought their A game for this. But I do agree with you. The villain writing was awful. I shouldn't say awful, but it wasn't.
It could have been better.
It could have been a lot better. And I think that really took away from the film because there wasn't enough to get invested in.
Yeah.
And I understand it's tough to do with Captain Marvel because I honestly don't know a lot of rogues that are involved with somebody else, that are strictly her rogues.
Right.
Albeit, though, I have to dive into more of the recent runs of Captain Marvel to kind of get an idea. But nevertheless, it was great to see the dynamic come back with Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, who, being the side character there, he was having a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And that was something in the writing that I almost want to say I was taken back by a little bit.
I know some people were confused about this too, just because of the way things went down in Secret Invasion.
Yeah,
and then he was happy-go-lucky, which we haven't gotten an official confirmation yet, but I know there's been some speculation online that this takes place before Secret Invasion.
Yeah, it would have to, but then at the same point, if Carol Danvers is back, then where was she during Secret Invasion? Like I said, it's a weird, if I can use the old school term, no prize. This is what that is because it just depends on where this is all taking place.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the writing of Fury was fun, but it threw me for a loop just because we've just seen him in Secret Invasion.
Yeah,
and he's very brooding and grizzled from the stuff that he's gone through.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of like a weird thing to say. But when when you're going through that stuff, it's like when Christopher Eccleston played Doctor Who.
Yes.
And just how grizzled he was after the Time War.
Yeah.
It was like that's where Fury should have been, and he wasn't for this film. And that's what kind of really threw me for a loop. But it didn't take me out of it. I still think this is a highly enjoyable film. It's fun. And if you're looking for that kind of vibe of Guardians, this was great. I give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, no, like I said, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, It's fun. It's enjoyable. Is it the greatest movie of all time? No. Is it the worst movie of all time? No.
Absolutely not.
Is it fun and it's a good watch for, the 105 minutes? Yeah, absolutely. And goddamn, the bonus scene. Holy shit.
Bonus scene put it over the top.
Yeah.
That's what really, that gave it such an emphasis that it needed to be seen. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, we gave you our predictions on it, our reviews on it, I should say, and our predictions of what's coming next, but we want to hear yours. So hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about the Marvels? Did you go watch it? And if so, did you love it? Did you hate it? And let's talk about it. So that being said, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do not adjust your dial. Or, your phone, your watch, or whatever the heck you're using to listen to the awesome podcast you're currently listening to. I am the Duke of Nerds, Tyler Mack, and I am here to tell you that being a nerd can be a bit overwhelming, especially after 30. Life moves pretty fast in our nerd culture, and if you don't take the time to notice things, you miss out. That's why I'm here. As your Duke of Nerds, I am charged with educating, enlightening, and entertaining you on all things nerdy. I do it by running the 30 to Nerdy podcast. 30 to Nerdy is a Badcast Company production and currently playing wherever you cast your pod. Follow along each episode using the hashtag 30andnerdypod. And check out what all is going on at 30andnerdypodcast.com. Whether it's DC, Marvel, comics, or video games, I have got you covered. So tune in now. Cheers to you, nerds.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have finally arrived at the end, for season 2 of Disney Plus and Marvel Studios' smash hit, Loki.
Bah, 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 bah. Anyone else got that stuck in their head, or is it just me?
No, I'm with you on this. The closing episode had social media buzzing.
Hey, Marvel, thanks for the birthday gift.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got loaded up on your birthday pad between that and the Marvels.
Yeah, I did.
It's been a good week for you.
Usually is with Marvel. Thank you.
Well, they know you.
Yeah, they do. They're familiar.
They're very familiar with us. Shout out to Marvel Entertainment.
Yeah.
But that being said, we have a lot to discuss in this finale.
Yes.
Because, like we say, between this and the Marvels, like, this was overtaking social media talk going into the weekend.
This needed a couple rewinds to fully understand what exactly was going on, because they were throwing a lot at you.
Yeah, this we have discussed on for the past 5 episodes was going to have to really hit us with a lot to catch up. Proving once again people listen to the show. Because they hit us with quite a lot to digest with this finale, and we have a lot to break down in this. So if you have not seen Season 2's finale, Episode 6, entitled Glorious Purpose, we're telling you to duck out right now, because we are going to give you our spoiler-free statement, followed by the countdown. You know the drill by now. So, Pad, what do you think of the finale?
This was about as perfect an ending as I could have imagined. I don't know how you make this any better than it already is. There's not one thing I'm looking going, you know what, if they would have done this or they would have done that differently, it might have been perfect. No, for me, this is as close to perfect, if it's not perfect already, as is. It was incredible. Everyone in the episode acted their tails off. You know, the music was incredible. The cinematography was incredible. And the implications of what it means going forward are nuts.
Yeah, they threw a lot in this finale, and it goes to a testament of the writing, and it goes to a testament of Tom Hiddleston as Loki,
yes,
Sophie DiMartino as Sylvie, obviously Ki-Hu Kwan as OB, who's been the MVP of this entire
breakout star.
Yeah, the entire season.
If an Oscar winner can be a breakout star, I don't know.
I mean, he's going to get some kind of praise and awards. Praise from the fans, yes. Awards, it's got to be happening one way or another. And Owen Wilson as Mobius.
Wow.
Because literally that's the reaction you had at the end of this episode. They really made a statement with what they've been trying to do here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happily surprised, because I honestly didn't think they were going to be able to pull it off.
Neither did I.
But they really put an exclamation point on this, and they followed it up with a question, because there is a lot to guess where we're going from here.
Oh, yeah, there is.
So if you haven't seen this episode, we give you both our highest possible recommendations for this.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need to see it. You might need to watch it a second time.
Yeah. There's
a lot to dive into. So that being said, Pad, 3, 2, 1, let's get into it.
This episode, was for me about as perfect as can be. I can't think of anything they did egregiously wrong that I'm going, that really didn't stick with me. That really didn't, connect with me. I wish they would have done this differently. I wish they would have done that differently. Everything from start to finish was insane. And there was multiple times where I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat watching, and then a piece of dialogue would get said or something would go on, and I'd kind of sit back and go, oh my God, whoa, wow, this is nuts. So cannot recommend this enough, and cannot recommend the show enough, because the journey to get to this point, especially this season, was interesting at points.
It was rough.
But it was worth it in the end.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. We finally got the payoff we needed. And then where we head from here, that's the big X factor looming overhead.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended with the loom statement.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, this got to be a very, very interesting endgame for this season.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all centered around Loki being the anomaly in the time stream. And this is the first time pop culture has had a real deep dive into the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's due to his actions with Sylvie, with killing He Who Remains at the end of season 1. It unleashed Kang the Conqueror onto the masses, played by Jonathan Majors. And the ramifications have been huge. And this also factored into Loki, who has been a time misplaced character because of the events of Endgame.
Yep.
You have to remember that.
Yep.
He was killed off in Infinity War.
Yes.
So the fact that he is technically a dead man walking, we have to keep this into context because he's not technically around in any timeline.
Right.
So what they've been trying to do is, since he's been misplaced in time, he's been trying to fix it. They know the temporal loom has been broken.
Yep.
They've tried anything and everything to fix it, including going in a variant from Kang's time or DNA, I should say.
Yep.
In Victor Timely.
Yep.
Somebody that has his genetic code to come in there and try helping them, and that's not worked out as well as they thought it was going to. And then even going into the last episode too, we saw the truth behind the TVA, which has really been a farce the entire time. And Loki has now taken on this quest to redeem himself through his actions by being the one to save the day. He wants to rewrite the story, much like Cody Rhodes. So now we jump into here where he is now figured out a way to time slip, and he gets to moments before the temporal loom explodes and causes the end of time as we know it. And no matter what he's doing here, he's failing. So we have repeated attempts. This was much in the same vein as Run Lola Run.
Goes on for like a century?
Yeah.
Or centuries? I forget what it is they said specifically, but I know century was mentioned.
So he always is failing, no matter what he does. And then he even jumps into a moment where he's trying to stop everything that caused this entirely. And that is the moment that Sylvie kills He Who Remains, another one of Kang's DNA variants.
Yep.
And no matter what he's doing, Sylvie is not listening.
Yep, and he always dies.
Yeah, so it's like I say, it's a Run Lola Run moment. It's a Groundhog Day effect.
Yeah.
However you want to define it, he keeps reliving it.
Yeah.
And they more or less get broken down that the loom has always been somewhat of a protective energy over the timeline itself. So we start getting this idea about what Loki is breaking down via He Who Remains, because He Who Remains just literally says, he goes, yeah, the loom is here because it watches over the timeline.
It's a failsafe.
It's a failsafe. So the fact that you've now tampered with this,
Yep.
this is now on you.
Well, and the other thing, too, he alludes to, because, Loki has been trying for, a century, if not multiple centuries now, to come up with a way to save the loom. He finally, like you said, goes back to confront He Who Remains and Sylvie, and he brings this up at one point because He Who Remains is aware the entire time of what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
He knows that this is like not the first instance is going on, and he's like, oh, yeah, so how'd this attempt work? What number are we on? But he brings up to Loki, like, hey, listen, you can't fix the loom, because basically, I forget what it is he says exactly, but he basically says that, like, you need to upscale the power or whatever it is that the loom can handle, but you can't upscale something that is constantly increasing. That, like, there's no saving the loom because the timelines keep branching out nonstop.
Yeah. So He Who Remains offers him kind of like a Faustian deal, if you will.
A little bit of a potential out.
Yeah. Where he's like, well, you can stop this. You just have to kill Sylvie.
Yeah.
And Loki's like, no, I'm not doing this. And no matter what he does, he goes yet again on a century-like run of trying to stop her.
A couple 100 times.
Yeah. Until finally he just sits with Mobius and tries approaching this from a different angle.
Yep.
And even he has to work with Sylvie and explain this too. That what has to happen is not going to happen. And we have to really look at it from a different way. So what it ultimately boils down to is Loki steps in for Victor Timely.
Yep.
And the moment where Timely gets disintegrated, or what did they call it, spaghettified?
Yeah, that's what people have been calling it.
When he goes out to approach the loom, Loki is the one that has to go there instead. And Loki survives, but he destroys the loom in the process. So it's now rearranged about the timelines. Like it's weird how he's doing this.
Yeah.
Because it really is all falling back on him. Like, he takes the weight of the world on his shoulders. And he is like, now, well, if I have to take care of the loom, I now need to be the replacement for it. He even touches upon the original trope that he was running with at the beginning of the series. Like, we have to remember, he has always seen himself to be a god, a ruler, a king.
Yep.
But he never knew his own kingdom until now.
Yep.
Because he has grown so attached to Mobius and Sylvie that he now has something to care about. So, Pat, that being said, before we get into what he does, what is your reaction to this? Because I have some feelings about this.
I thought it was crazy. I did not see it coming that Loki would quasi-sacrifice himself. You know, I never saw or thought of a possibility where he would go down this route, and I was shocked to see it.
Yeah, like, I was shocked to see it. I didn't like it.
Okay.
Just because, well, like, it goes against his character, but I understand what they're trying to do, and I have to remember this, and this is more like a me thing, is he's ultimately somebody that is going to fail at this because his own personal ego, his own nature.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the story about the scorpion and the turtle there.
Oh yeah.
The scorpion bites or stings him. Why? Because you're my nature. It's my nature.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, it's
just who he is.
Yeah. Like, that's where I think you have with Loki here. So it's interesting to see him set up like this.
Yeah.
Because what he does is he winds up going back to the center where the loom is destroyed, climbing up these stairs, and yet he's forming into the Loki we know with the horns.
Bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
Shout out to the composer. Holy shit.
Yeah, like, this scene is very, very powerful as he's climbing and he's now going back to his true form.
Natalie Holt is the composer.
Yeah, amazing job with this whole sequence, because as he's climbing up and sits on his throne, he now has to sit there and be the one to watch over the timelines.
Yeah.
So essentially now he is the god of time.
Yeah.
Because
there's a lot of speculation going on what his job title is now.
Yeah, but he's more or less sitting there watching the branches, holding them together, which I don't know if he's going to be able to do, like, always.
Right. Well, and there's a little bit of Norse symbolism going on there that was alluded to in the credits from Thor 1. He's basically formed the timelines into, and I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize, but the Yggdrasil tree. Which, reading from the Wikipedia page, it says Yggdrasil is an immense and central sacred tree in Norse cosmology. Around it exists all else, including the 9 worlds. Yggdrasil is attested in the Poetic Edda, compiled in the 13th century from early traditional sources, and in the Prose Edda, compiled in the 13th century by Snorri Sturluson. In both sources, Yggdrasil is an immense ash tree that is central to the cosmos and considered very holy. The gods go to Yggdrasil daily to assemble at their traditional governing assemblies. The branches of Yggdrasil extend far into the heavens, and the tree is supported by 3 roots that extend far away into other locations. One to the well, Uronabur, in the heavens, one to the spring heaven, Hvergelmir, and the other well to Mismbur. Creatures live within Yggdrasil, including the dragon Niogr, Niohoggr, and an unnamed eagle, and the stags Dane, Dwalvin, Dunir, and Durafor. Scholars generally consider a couple names there. I'm going to butcher the shit out of them, so I won't even try. To be the other names of the tree. The tree is an example of sacred trees and groves in Germanic paganism and mythology, and scholars in the field of Germanic philology have long discussed its implications. So this is like the tree of all trees in Norse mythology.
See, maybe they're using this as a loose branch, no pun intended.
I don't think it's meant to be directly that tree, but it's supposed to. It since he's tying everything together and he is a Norse god, it's just what he did.
Yeah, I just don't think
I don't think it's a direct, like, it is the Yggdrasil tree, but I think it's just meant to look like it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that for a lot of people, they thought he was becoming the tree.
No, yeah, see, I didn't think that.
I didn't think that at all.
I just thought he had to grab the 3 things together. He had to make it look something, and they tried the whole timeline thing. That wasn't quite working, so instead of it being the timeline like you're thinking of, it's now a tree, where they don't trim the branches, they let them grow like a tree.
Yeah. It's an interesting setup how they do this, but it ultimately results into Loki being isolated by himself. And that he to like a weird degree is like a booster gold, so to speak.
Kinda.
That he's not in the timeline, but he's
Kinda.
doing things behind
It's
the
almost
scenes.
like the Watcher.
Yeah, like there's an interesting setup you can say with Loki now, and it's something we'll have to watch as we move forward. But
One could say he's burdened with glorious purpose.
glorious. I'll cue the music right now for Bobby Roode. So he now has his kingdom. He oversees time, so he is essentially.
But
the
does
god
he
of time.
have adrenaline in his soul?
something?
Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes. Not as of yet, but that would be an amazing cameo for season 3.
Hey.
So now the TVA has been restructured a little bit, and now they're looking for the variants of He Who Remains.
They look for Kang variants.
Yes.
We get a little mention. They mentioned that there was a variant that showed up, and I forget what exactly they said. They didn't say directly on 616. They said adjacent. I think they said
They kept referring to adjacent.
adjacent to 616, aka the quantum realm. So we get a little bit of a. So it looks like all of this was taking concurrently with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is something I know I was wondering.
Yeah, which, I mean, that does clear up a lot there. Mm-hmm. So one variant has been stopped.
Yeah.
So they are acknowledging Kang is lurking around here. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you have some restructuring at the TVA.
Yeah.
B-15 is now one of their leaders.
Makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Had no issue with this. I mean, B-15 has been such a great character through the entire series.
Yeah.
Woonie Moscow has been crushing it in that role. So
Phenomenal stuff.
Yeah. And now working with her is OB,
Yeah.
who has rewritten the TVA handbook with Victor Timely as his co-author.
Uh-huh.
And then did probably something that will backfire him down the road.
This is going to come. They even set this up. This is going to come back to bite him in the ass.
Yep. Who did they reactivate?
Ms. Minutes.
Yep.
And they bring up the fact that she's not going to like turn on us, is she?
Yeah.
And they don't answer. They simply shrug.
I understand what they were trying to go with this, but I'm like,
This is them setting it up. This is going to come back to bite him in the ass.
she is a time criminal.
Uh-huh.
A mass murderer. You can't.
She's Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah.
Without the whole stealing stuff.
Yeah. So she's the mystique of the timeline
Yeah.
cosmos.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there.
Like the instant she showed up, I'm like, oh hell. But then she gave the whole like, oh, it's fresh off a reboot your computer or factory reset. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then they brought up, oh, she's not going to come to turn on us, is she? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Like if they'd have said, no, she's not going to do this. We put special security blocks or program blocks in her that'll prevent that from happening. I'm like, oh, okay. There's still a chance, but it's not much. But the fact that like that wasn't even brought up, I'm like, yep, nope, she's going to turn.
So we'll have to wait to see about that. Her partner in crime, Renslayer, awakens somewhere and encounters something, Pat.
Well, before that, there's also 2 Timelies now.
Yes.
Because there's the Timely in the TVA. There's also the Timely in the Sacred Timeline in 1863, but he doesn't get the TVA handbook. So that could play into it.
That'll play into something else.
Yeah. But no, yeah, then you mentioned Renslayer.
Yeah, who awakens where, Pad?
She's in the void.
Yeah. And what does she encounter?
I've seen a lot of people speculate it's Aeloth.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure.
That's the running theory, which, I mean, it makes sense, but it's also, like, I'm not fully sold on it. Like, let me put it that way. But, it's something that the He Who Remains has used for weapons.
Yeah.
So it would make sense if they somehow get that into Kang's possession.
I know the other speculation is she ran into either Aeloth or I know Nathaniel Richards' name is getting thrown around.
Yeah.
A.K.A. Ramatut, which is one of the Kang variants we saw in Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania.
Yeah. So it's interesting how they're going to play her storyline out. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see.
Not the last we've seen.
No, I definitely do not think it's the last we've seen of Ravonna Renslayer
Nope.
by any stretch of the imagination, because as long as Kang is still involved, Ravonna is going to be there. And
Takes 2 to tango.
Exactly, and with Gugu Mbatha-Rath, in that said role,
Did a phenomenal job.
yeah, we're definitely not seeing the last of her. Just in what capacity, I don't know, because we still have not a clear-cut path to get to whatever the end game is going to be for Kang.
Right.
But with Ravonna and Miss Minutes still there and still having their plots wide open,
Let's say the threads are still left floating in the wind.
yes, there's still time to come back and bring them into whatever is going to be the end game for Kang
Yeah.
at this stage.
Yeah.
But we do end on a very strong character note, though.
Yeah.
Because we do see that Mobius is meeting with Sylvie and watching his former self, Don, enjoy life with his children.
Yep.
And it's kind of a bittersweet moment because Sylvie is kind of sitting there going, what are you going to do now?
Because he's, for all intents and purposes, retired.
Yeah, and he's just kind of basking and understanding that he's been happy.
Yeah.
And he's going to try forging his own path, it seems like.
For now.
But I don't think that we've seen the end of this, and I don't think we've seen the end of the series.
I think we might have.
Well, I think maybe in some capacity.
Because the whole show is titled Loki. And for now, he is sitting on this throne in the middle of what was the loom. It's in the middle of the timeline, the multiverse, whatever you want to call it. And he can't move. He can't get up. He can't leave, because if he lets go of those threads, the multiverse falls in on itself. Everything. Because the thing you got to remember, before he gathered them up, all the timelines were dying.
Right.
There was nothing keeping him going. So unless he comes up with something, which I feel like it would cheapen it, if you go from this with him taking up the burden of holding on to the multiverse and keeping things going for in 9 months to a year, whatever it is, just go, oh, hey, you know what? I figured out a way to get up out of this. You couldn't have figured that out while you were there. I think for now we've seen the end of it, but I don't think we've seen the end of Loki.
See, here's the thing. I think that they wind up coming back because I think Kang is the one who sends somebody in there to take it.
Could be.
And takes him out, and he has to fight his way back. See, that's how I think they set it up, because they just have too many plot holes still unanswered.
I think that could happen potentially as a bonus scene to whatever movie precedes the Avengers Kang Dynasty.
Well, like I say, we got a ways to go there, and
right.
So I mean, I think if anything, we're going to see something at Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that could be.
I think if anything, it would arguably be then.
Based off the rumors of what Fantastic Four is going to entail, that would make sense.
Yeah, so we just have to wait and see how it plays out. But I mean, for ending this series on this note for now,
strong ending,
very strong ending. Really left a lot of emotions on the table there. And especially to see where things go from here. I mean, that's the whole thing with the God of Time and his new stat quo.
Yeah,
it's a matter of time, no pun intended, till more heroes catch on what he's doing, and then you still have Loki lurking around.
And we'll hopefully figure out what his official title is, because I know there's some speculation. There's a couple titles I've seen thrown around that it could be.
It could be, but like I say, we just have to wait to see how it all plays out. But I mean, Pat, final thoughts on the episode and season?
Fantastic episode, best episode of the season, and ended up saving the season for me. I wasn't going to say the season was a loss, but it's definitely up until this point was skippable.
Mm-hmm.
You could honestly wait until the season was over and really binge watch it and do it all then, but this made it must watch TV.
Yeah, no, this was definitely a strong ending. Solid season once we got to the latter half.
The first season was better, but this one was okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. Overall, first season a lot better, but stronger finale though. Way stronger finale.
Oh, yeah.
One of the best ones they've done for Marvel Television.
Yes.
No question about that.
Yes.
It's not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, though. Just putting that out there. But it's still very good to watch, and now we have a new God of Time, and where the timelines are going from here literally is anybody's guess. I know there's been a lot of speculation about the future of Kang, but for where we are right now, Loki is overseeing everything, but the question is going to be for how long. So that said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts of the season finale of Season 2's Loki entitled Glorious Purpose? Ironically, the name of Season 1's premiere. So does it all come full circle? That's the question. So hit us up. Let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which is 2 bits of breaking news.
Breaking? That's unlike...
I know. So reading from the first one, which is on comicbook.com, we have a new casting for Superman Legacy.
Oh.
The upcoming James Gunn film, of course, being the first film in the DCU, or whatever they're calling it these days, the James Gunn universe. So reading from the article, it says, quote, Superman Legacy has found its newest cast member. On Wednesday, a report confirmed that Maria Gabriela de Ferreira has joined the upcoming DC film in the role of Angela Spica / The Engineer.
Let's go.
The Engineer is a member of DC's The Authority, which have already been confirmed to be getting their own DC film as part of James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC Universe slate. In the comics, Angela is the second character to take on the mantle of the Engineer and has nanites built within her body. De Ferreira's filmography includes Deadly Class,
Yes.
The Exorcism of Gods, Animal Control, and The Moodies. Close quote. So interesting casting. I'm all fucking for it. Anything new with Superman movie should be interesting.
She was fantastic on Deadly Class.
Yeah.
You took me a second to remember who she was. Yeah, she'll be great in that role.
And then the other bit of casting news, it is rumored to be that Pedro Pascal is being eyed to play Reed Richards.
Really?
This coming to us from the folks over at Deadline. The article reads, quote, after months of speculation over who might play Reed Richards, a.k.a. Mr. Fantastic in Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four, the wait may finally be over. While a deal is far from done, sources tell Deadline that 3-time Emmy nominee Pedro Pascal is in talks to play the leader of the iconic superhero team. Insiders add that scheduling is still being worked out, but multiple sources close to the negotiations are saying it's headed in the right direction for Pascal to do this and his other future projects. Pascal has a full dance card that includes Gladiator 2, which is expected to go into production before the end of the year, as well as his popular HBO series The Last of Us, which is expected to shoot next year. Marvel had no comment. As for other members of the team, that can now be worked out as it was essential to figure out who would be playing Richards before they could go out with offers to others. The hope would be to shoot early next year, so expect this cast to fill out quickly, with director Matt Shakman currently in pre-production at Pinewood Studios in England. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige will produce. Close quote.
Wow. I mean, that's a huge win if they get him. See, I didn't even think about him coming to the MCU with how busy he is. Because this is going to be a time commitment. Like, the Fantastic Four is going to be all over the place for the MCU. So that's a huge get if that is true. He'll be great as Reed.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not worried about that at all.
Yeah. Dude's a busy dude these days.
Wow.
Dude's a busy dude these days. You got whatever they're going to do with Mandalorian. Well, you got the Mandalorian movie.
I was going to say Mandalorian projects.
The Dave Filoni movie that's coming up. Last of Us Season 2, which they said the next game, quote unquote, would go over the course of multiple seasons.
Yeah.
So he's got that to tie up with, plus Gladiator 2, plus now this. Dude's a busy dude these days.
Busy dude, but that is one heck of an addition to the MCU. I'm blown away by that right now.
And we got a couple of trailers from the folks over at Marvel today. Let's start with the good.
Okay.
Let's start with the good.
I like good.
We got a trailer dropped for What If Season 2, which is coming to us on December 22nd. Going to be 9 episodes. And the nice thing, Marvel's giving us a little bit of a gift. We're getting one a day for 9 days.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they're not stretching it out over 9 weeks. So you're going to get one on December 22nd, 23rd, 24th, one on Christmas Day, the 26th, 27th, 28th, and 28th and 29th and 30th and all that. So going to be awesome to see. The trailer, it looks awesome. Not a whole lot to figure out with other than, hey, the Watcher says he doesn't normally do sequels, but, he's making an exception.
Yeah, I loved everything I saw with this. This is fun. I mean, it's what if. So you have to see where they kind of lean into timelines and such. But from what we saw, it looks good. I'm all in.
Yeah, no, I'm super all in for this. Oh, and then we got to get to the bad.
Cue up that 2000 soundtrack.
Let's say, where's Remy Zero when we need him?
Yep.
We got a trailer drop today from the folks over at, I'm not even going to lay the blame on Marvel for this one, from the folks over at Sony. The trailer's on the Marvel Entertainment YouTube page, but Sony's putting this hot piece of garbage out. And that is the upcoming movie entitled Madam Web, which is coming out Lord knows when. I don't plan on seeing this movie, because this movie, I'll admit, I knew this was a thing. I was going to wait and give it my judgment until I saw the trailer. I seen the trailer. I'm not a fan.
See, here's the thing with it. I mean, Dakota Johnson's playing the title character. It's a younger version of the Marvel Comics Spider-Man Mystic.
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of the easy way to describe. Madam Web is going to be interesting to see how they try doing on film, but from seeing the trailer, this straight up looked like Morbius Part 2. This looked like something CWS out of 2000s.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, you can cue up the Stabbing Westward, the Remy Zero, like that kind of metal rock and roll.
Yeah.
Plug it in here and it fits. Like it's in the same vein. The issue I have with this, and I mean, I hit me up on the hashtag. I'm more than willing to discuss this. They've already dabbled in the multiple Spider-Women throughout the timelines in this film. So you know it's going to deal with the multiverse, a la No Way Home.
Yep. And there are multiple Spider folks in this movie.
Yeah, so that's the situation here that we've seen.
The stills are out. It's not a spoiler. Spider-Woman's in this movie.
Yeah, there's multiple.
Yeah.
So it just depends on which versions they're doing that we've seen around Dakota Johnson's character.
Yeah.
So, like I say, the minute I saw the Julia Carpenter character, I was like, okay. And then, I'm blanking on the other one.
Yeah.
You know what? But in all honesty, like, there's a lot of the familiar faces from the MCU.
They also give away practically the entire plot of this movie.
Yeah,
in the trailer.
Comics. Yeah, the comics. So, like I say, from the comics universe, there's a lot of variations of Spider-Woman that are in here, tying in with Madam Web. I'm not sure where they're going with it, but I just know it's going to be time travel, multiverse. I'm not liking what I'm seeing thus far.
Listen, it's Sony, Sinister Six in some capacity.
Yeah, like that's why I say it's got that kind of vibe.
They've had an urge to do Sinister Six now for like 2 decades.
Yeah.
Is what it is. And then our last bit of Marvel news, it was announced today that Destin Daniel Cretton, who of course directed Shang-Chi, the Shang-Chi film, was scheduled to direct the upcoming Avengers movie, that being Kang Dynasty, but it is being reported by the folks at Variety that is no longer the case. So reading from the article on Variety.com, it reads, quote, Director Destin Daniel Cretton has departed Avengers Kang Dynasty, an upcoming superhero adventure in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Kang Dynasty, which is positioned as the Avengers Infinity War of this current MCU era, isn't scheduled to open until May 1st, 2026. It will be succeeded by Avengers Secret Wars a year later on May 7th, 2027, which will tie together the 6th phase of the long-running franchise. Unlike the 2-part saga of Infinity War and Endgame, which were filmed and directed back-to-back by Anthony and Joe Russo, Cretton was only hired to direct the Kang Dynasty. There's no director on board yet for Secret Wars. Cretton isn't permanently parting ways with the MCU. He's still on board to direct the sequel to his 2021 blockbuster Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and he's currently working with Disney Plus on the Disney Plus series Wonder Man for Marvel Studios. Close quote.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, at this stage, there's a lot of moving parts that are happening there. And I had to, that's kind of waiting to see. Because I've heard the rumor they're trying to slide villains, Kang out, Doctor Doom in.
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors going around.
There's way too many rumors going on, but, that's where it's kind of haunting. And I have to go back for a second because it's Maddie Franklin. That's the Spider-Woman I was trying to think of. I could see the character, but I could not say who it was.
Right.
But that's, like I say, it just goes back to how many characters they're borrowing and adding in here on the Spider-Verse. So
then we got to talk some Netflix news, because Netflix had their Geeked Week thing go on last week, and they had a whole bunch of stuff that got announced. First of which was an anime series that I did not see coming, but once they said it, I'm like, you know what? I'm fucking in for this. It was announced that the folks over at Production IG, the anime studio, are going to be working on a Terminator anime series.
I'm in.
Yeah, so am I. Once you started doing the dun 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 dun, you had me sold. So yeah, this one is coming from Skydance, Production IG, and Mattson Tomlin. It's coming. No release date yet. Only said it's coming soon. Really, not even a whole lot shown. Just like a little bit of text, like about 1997. And if you're familiar with the Terminator franchise, you know what happened in 1997. So it'll be interesting to see what route they go with this. I'm all for more Terminator stuff. Terminator is a great franchise.
I'm all in. Yeah. I'm all in. I don't need that much with involving Terminator. I'm all in.
Next up was we finally got a release for first release trailer for the upcoming Avatar: The Last Airbender live action series. This being an adaptation of the seminal and very popular animated series of the same name that came out in Nickelodeon in the early 2000s, of which I am a fan. I was skeptical about this just because fuck you, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, go watch the first season of Avatar The Last Airbender, which you can find, I believe it's on Netflix. It's also on Paramount Plus. Then, if you can find it streaming anywhere, because I'm not recommending you spend any money renting this movie, go watch the M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
It is a hot piece of fucking garbage that they tried cramming. The first season of Avatar, I want to say, is like 22, 24 episodes.
Yeah.
They tried cramming it into in like under 2 hours. It's not good. It's awful. This, though, looks fucking phenomenal. Now, I know the creators of Avatar were attached onto this and working with this for a time, but have now since left.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, if you are a fan of Avatar The Last Airbender, this looks incredible. They use the music from the series. The costumes look the same. The characters look great. The set pieces look amazing. Everything about this looks... Daniel Day Kim as Fire Lord Ozai. Holy shit, like that looks awesome. Cannot wait for this to come. And we don't have long to wait because the first season is dropping on February 22nd. I'm super excited for this.
Yeah, I mean, this... Avatar has never really won me over, so I'm hoping to give this a shot and maybe turn into a fan.
Then we got to talk a little bit more Netflix news because series that I have been waiting for season 2 of, because the first season of this show came out on It came out on October 27th of 2020. And by the time this comes out, it will have been basically 3.5 years, is Blood of Zeus. So this was an animated anime series. It was done by the same production studio that did Voltron, the Voltron series on Netflix. Set in Greek mythology, set in like ancient Greece times. It involves the Greek gods, Zeus, Hades and whatnot. Very violent, very gory, great story. I admittedly have to do a rewatch because it's been basically 3 years since I saw season 1. Needed something to watch because it was 2020 and there wasn't a whole lot getting released new in theaters in 2020, as some of you may remember. So I saw this. I'm like, yeah, I'll give this a shot. Love season 1. Cannot wait for this. Gotta wait a little bit though because that is coming out on May 15th.
Yeah, it looks very interesting.
Looks super good. Lastly, certainly not leastly, from the things announced over at Netflix and Geeked Week, did not see this coming. But coming out on December 14th, so that is literally under a month away, is going to be at least a season of a live-action animation adaptation of the legendary manga from Shonen Jump, Yu Yu Hakusho, which, if you aren't familiar with Yu Yu Hakusho, first of all, what the fuck is wrong with you? It had its original run from December 3rd of 1990 to July 25th, 1994. There are 19 volumes in the set. It also got an anime adaptation, which was directed by Noriyuki Abe and co-produced by Fuji Television. Also Yomiko Advertising and Studio Perot. The series consisted of 112 episodes and aired from October 10th, 1992 to December 17th, 1994 on Fuji Television. There were also the episodes released on 23 video cassettes from Pony Canyon from January 1st of 1995 to December 6th of 1995. They were also released on 28 DVD volumes. It also got a English dub version from the folks over at Funimation, which I remember watching back in like the early Toonami days in like the late 90s, which is where I saw it and was a phenomenal show. I don't want to spoil anything about this, but go check out the trailer. I couldn't believe they were doing this because I'll be honest, it's a great show. I had not thought of Yu Yu Hakusho in probably like 15 or 20 years. But it looks awesome. It looks visually stunning.
It looks very impressive.
So I'm super excited to check this out. And like I said, coming out on December 14th. So definitely that is one to check out if you need something to watch.
Yeah, definitely caught my attention there. So
yeah.
I'm very excited to see it. So that being said, before we get into the comic shops, very quickly, spoiler-free, Invincible talk.
Yeah.
Episode 2 came out
of
season 2. Pad, what's your thoughts on it?
As good as as good as episode 1 was, season 2 was a bit of a step back. It honestly felt like filler. It was okay. I didn't hate watching it, but I kind of got to the end of it and went, well, that was the thing. Didn't really advance the plot any. It really didn't do anything for me. It was a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah, it was interesting. I will say that. But I have to watch what I have to say with this. So
Sure.
You know what? I'm just going to err on the side of caution after episode 4 comes out. So That is Pat's take on this.
Okay.
Just to make sure, because with the deal with I do have my review of season 1 or season 2 and the first 4 episodes up, so I have to be careful what I say. So
like I'm not disencouraging anyone from watching it. Like if you're a fan of the show, definitely go watch it. But just like in terms of where episode 1 went and just how things were set up and kind of the intrigue with that, it felt like they took a side trip and decided to go to like the convenience store to pick up some snacks.
Okay. So that being said, Invincible is on Fridays on Amazon Prime via Amazon Studios Prime Video, so definitely make sure to go check it out.
Yeah.
Before we hit to the comic shops, though, there was some comic news that we've known about coming for a little while. Like, we've had a feeling.
Okay.
So coming to us from the fine folks at Amazon.
Ooh.
Quote, on December 4th, 2023, we'll be merging Comixology and Kindle applications on iOS, Android, and Fire OS. Starting today, any books previously purchased on Comixology will be automatically visible on your library and the Kindle app. The upgraded Kindle app experience is now available. However, you may continue reading your books in the Comixology app until December 4th, 2023.
I know if you're on Amazon Fire Tablet, like I got one a couple years ago. I hadn't used it in a while, so I went to use it the other month and updated the service. That's already been a thing for a while.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We've been hearing a lot of...
The writing's been on the wall.
A lot of allegedlys with that. So now that's officially going to be going down on December 4th. So if you are getting your stuff through Comixology, make sure to check that out. And focus on what you need to, and we can go from there because it's New Comic Book Day, and we have a lot to discuss. So, Pat, what you picking up at the shops?
All 4 things I'm picking up this week are from the fine folks over at Marvel, first of which, The Immortal Thor, issue number 4 from Al Ewing. The cover art is amazing. It's Alex Ross, so you cannot go wrong with that on the cover. But this one reads, Summons of the Allfather. On the dark side of the moon, God faced Goddess, and that was only just the beginning of Thor's trouble. But as his many foes gathered to destroy him, the Odinson had one final trick to play. This is the story of the Immortal Thor and the summoning of the Four. Should know the first letter of 4 is capitalized despite being in the middle of a sentence.
Interesting.
Probably means something. We'll see. And then also coming out this week, Superior Spider-Man issue number 1 from Dan Slott. Mark Bagley is also the artist. A Superior Reckoning. Spider-Man faces a new villain from his superior past. As she fries New York with all the power of a living star, Doc Ock makes a life-changing discovery. Mark Bagley and Dan Slott continue their Spider-Man run with this 10th anniversary celebration of everything that made Spider-Man superior.
Ooh. Definitely need to take a read of that one.
Yeah. And then from the folks over Marvel as well, Deadpool, 7 Slaughters, issue number 1. Rob Liefeld's the author and artist on this one.
If I'm not mistaken, this is one with the Great Capullo cover.
I believe so, because it's got a Colin Bunn. It's another one of the authors. Cody Ziegler's listed as one of the authors. So is Mark Guggenheim, Justina Ireland, Greg Capullo's on the cover art. Greg Land is one of the artists. Will Shea Portasio is an artist. David Baldwin is an artist. And Philip Sevi is also one of the artists. This one, let's see if I can find how many pages this thing is. Does not say. Interesting. But there it is. It's 70 pages long. Going to run you a little expensive. Looks like it's going for about $10, but it says 7 kills in 7 days. Welcome to a week in the life of Wade Wilson, the best mercenary Marvel's ever had. Just ask him. From facing off with rival killers to top secret assassinations, Deadpool has a lot to do in this blood-soaked, oversized issue full of fan favorite creators, past and future. So this one, of course, going to be fucking all sorts of nuts. You got Rob Liefeld back on Deadpool. It's going to be all sorts of crazy.
It's going to be a wild book to read. Absolutely.
And then lastly, from the folks over at Marvel, Star Wars Dark Droids, issue number 4 from Charles Soule. This one reads, The Scourge is on the verge of his ultimate triumph. The Empire decrees, beware the droids. Horrible laboratories across the galaxy are focused on transporting his many minds from droids into organics. But unbeknown to the Scourge, a final challenge to its total victory is building from an enemy it had believed it had defeated once and for all. So super interesting to see, of course, Charles Soule. You cannot go wrong when he's writing Star Wars.
No, you can't. You absolutely cannot.
Nope.
So for my picks this week, I'm actually sticking around in the Star Wars universe.
Hey-o.
Because there is a book out with one of the biggest creators in the game right now, Peach Momoko bringing her talents to Star Wars.
Heyo.
And it's Star Wars Visions Peach Momoko #1. So this is an absolute breathtaking read. It's a very cool issue. If you're into Star Wars, you're going to definitely be all about this. I mean, it's the Visions brand that has been killing it on animated form, and now it's been making the transition over into comics too. So I absolutely love this issue. I think it was just an experience. And like sometimes when you have books like that, it'll definitely jump out at you for that. So I definitely loved everything about that.
Yeah.
Also coming out this week, too, from Marvel was Children of the Vault #4. So it's the final issue of the limited series. Dennis Camp, has written some amazing things with Bloodshot and 20th Century Men. This book definitely lived up to the hype. I really enjoyed it. I like his writing a lot. So this was definitely something I had my eyes out for. So definitely don't want to miss that at the comic shops this week. Going over to the distinguished competition, Outsiders #1.
Hey.
So Jackson Lansing, Colin Kelly, Robert Carey are bringing back one of the most classic teams in the DC universe. However, this is not the same team that you know about. If you know anything about this team, Pat, it was started out in the 1980s as an alternate to the Justice League. Batman put them together, and it was really, they were doing things on the outside of the law, so to speak.
Okay.
So this incarnation is a lot different. But the only thing that's kind of familiar is there is a Batman tie, so to speak. Kate Kane and Luke Fox are members of this group. It's not a team, it's a group.
Right.
As you read, the story goes on, and this is going to be exploring a lot of different areas in the DCU. I thought issue #1 was very, very good. So definitely interested to hear what the ODPH Society has to think about that. Also, keeping it Batman in the DCU this week, Batman and Robin #3, Joshua Williamson, Simone DiMeo. Oh my God, this series is so good.
Nice.
One of my favorite series out right now, legitimately. If you want high action drama and you want just the art is popping off the page, this is your book. 3 issues in, I'm telling you right now, if you're not reading Batman and Robin, you're literally failing right now. This is one of DC's best books. It's one of the best books out there, period, but it's one of DC's best books, bar none. And if you're looking for something for more from Joshua Williamson this week, stay tuned to the ODPH network. Just putting that out there. So, if you're a Patreon, or if you're a patron, I should say, rather, you'll be hearing sooner than later, so to speak. ... But we have a lot to keep an eye on with involving his writing moving forward in the near future. Just kind of leave it at that. Over on Comixology Originals, Parliament of Rokes, #1. Abigail Harding, Richard Starkings. You might remember them from the Ask of Mercy series.
Okay.
So this is Harding's first writing duties and also doing the artwork as well. Very cool gothic horror romance story happening here. Amazing read. Like I say, not really sure where we're going just yet, but this definitely has a buzz behind it. I can completely understand why after picking up the first issue. So if you're looking for something that's definitely going to stand out a bit on the shelves, or the digital shelves, I should say, this is going to be one to check out on Comixology Originals right now. Going over to Skybound Entertainment, one of my favorite imprints. They're back, Pad.
Yeah?
G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 301.
Ah, shit.
So this is something that if you're a longtime G.I. Joe reader, this is going to be right up your alley. Larry Hama, the legendary writer, is back.
Nice.
Chris Mooningham is on the art, and this is one hell of a return issue. Just putting it out there right now. So for anybody that's looking for an intro to get into G.I. Joe, because obviously the Energon universe is blowing up right now, this is a perfect issue to come back in on. And the cover by Andy Kubert is just freaking phenomenal, too. So if you're looking to dive in, this is a perfect jump on point. They do a nice introduction piece for the intros. I got one thing I always say with Valiant is Valiant always does like a who's who. So if you're a new reader, you can jump in. You don't need the whole background.
Sure.
They do a version of that for this.
Nice.
And I love that. I love every
Very handy.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Like people don't think about that as much, but for me as a reader, I love seeing that because if I'm not sure about something, that's where I go to check out. Also, Arcade Kings #5 too is out from Skybound, concluding that series, and it's an amazing read if you haven't done that as well too. And then also from Image Comics, but from one of the imprints that is going to be having a monster 2024, Ghost Machine. Geiger Ground Zero, #1, Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. So they're spotlighting the early days of one of the unnamed universe's franchise characters of Geiger. I've read Geiger. The first volume is incredible. This is a very cool, I don't want to say a year one type thing.
Sure.
But it's a very cool introduction, and you get a great insight into the character, especially now leading into January, where we're going to have the big one shot that's introducing everything going on with Ghost Machine. And I can't stress this enough. After coming back from New York Comic Con, if you're not checking out Ghost Machine, you are seriously missing out, because they have such a monster lineup of books coming out. It's going to be blowing you absolutely away. Trust me. And if you're looking for even more Ghost Machine content, make sure you're subscribed to the ODPH and Nerd Initiative.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I've been telling people on Patreon we're making some moves, and sure enough, we definitely are.
Money moves.
I wish. Well, I mean, never say never. ... We'll just kind of leave it at that. And taking a quick lap around the other publishers this week, Ministry of Compliance #1 from IDW is one that is making a lot of buzz. Over on the Boom Studio sides, they've been putting out hit after hit after hit, and Lotus Land #1 looks like it's going to be another one in that great lineage of books that Boom has been dropping all year. Like I say, they in my opinion, they don't miss. They're just giving you hit after hit after hit. So that's going to be one to keep an eye out for. Image Comics Deviant #1 is James Tynion. That's kind of all you really need in your life. And it's him at Christmas time, right? So, like I say, it's a perfect holiday gift. So definitely make sure you go check this book out. Also, we have so many from Image this week, too. It's crazy. The Cull #4, that is definitely making some noise. Fish Flies, that's a great horror series, #3. I know, Pat, you won't pick it up, but it's a great read.
Nope.
Like I say, there's so much on the Marvel side of things, too. Capwolf and the Howling Commandos, #2. That came out in a big way. Uncanny Avengers, #4. Oh, my God, there's so many good books this week. And that's why you need to make sure you're following ODPH Podcast Parlay Points, either on odphpodcast.com, under the blog section, or Nerd Initiative, 9 a.m. every single Wednesday. We go every hour on the hour, dropping new reviews, so you know what to pick up at the comic shops each and every week. The bullpen is killing it right now. Absolutely killing it. And if you don't believe me, just go on social media and see the praises coming in, because there is a lot of great things that have been swinging through that we are very, very excited to be a part of. So that being said, nerdinitiative.com. If you need a link, you go to odphpodcast.com. It'll take you right there, too. Like, that's how easy we make it for you to find your comic book coverage. Because like we always say, especially this time of year, make sure to go out and support your LCS wherever you're at. Go into a comic shop, interact. If you need a great series to pick up, they have tons of recommendations. And just say you listen to it from the ODPH and you heard it on Nerd Initiative. And we'll steer you in the right direction always. And, going into the holiday season. Another reminder with this, too, if you have a pull list, make sure you pay it up in full. Don't leave it stranded for the holiday season. Make sure you get caught up on your pull list, people. That being said, for anything and everything it is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J,
I am burdened with glorious purpose, and I shall see you all next week.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.